Alright, so this is part 2 of the video about promoting this workgroup server into an Active Directory domain controller. So just to prove the point, I have Windows 2016 System Center in a workgroup. The next thing I need to do is promote this thing to a domain controller. So it is going to, I'm going to add a new forest. As soon as it lets me. There isn't a domain here, so the only option that makes sense would be to add the domain to the forest. Let's see. So I did that. I'm going to call it, I'm going to type it, and you're going to need your own admin password. You're going to create a domain called stc.local, and then you're going to go on from there. Now, I'm going to pause this for just a minute because I'll resume this when it lets me. Okay, so I'm going to add a new forest. I'm going to call it the domain name stc.local. That .local can be very useful for making sure that your domain has a valid FQDN, but can't possibly be tied in to the global net. Now, using a .local domain like that might give you some trouble on, say, Linux-based systems. It might have some issues resolving those correctly. You may have to do some tweaks, shall we say, to some of your settings inside the etc directory to tell that system how to look up a .local. So, my forest functional level and my domain functional level are both going to be Server 2016. There's no need to downgrade it to, say, 2012. And I'm going to pause this. Okay, no, I'm not going to. So, my password is going to be the same as usual. So it's going to be everything. It's going to have all 5 of those key roles that a initial domain server has. There's really not any need for us to get any more complicated than this. Like I said, there's no need to bring it down to a 2008 or 2012 level. Next. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and create the DNS delegation. Imperative user could not be found. Show more. Actions required. Okay. Okay. Okay, there is no parent zone, so this is fine. One of the other things I may have to check is to see whether this actually installed DNS. This should be Active Directory integrated DNS, but if that is not the case, I may have to fix something. I'm going to leave the domain name. The NetBIOS domain name actually will help a little bit, so you don't have to type stc.local every single time. Actually, you know what? Tools. DNS is not on my list yet. That may come in. That may become important later. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to leave all this in as it is. DNS server, yes, yes. Okay, so it's going to turn on the DNS now. So I'm going to click that script. So this is what the PowerShell looks like in the backend. This is something we'll actually see a little bit later as well, installing VMM. As you install these things, they often bring in new PowerShell options, and you can actually do a lot with VMM, the Virtual Machine Manager, directly from PowerShell. it's kind of analogous. It's like the Active Directory administrative center that way. It's the ADAC. ADUC is essentially a plug-in for the MMC, the Microsoft Management Console. The ADAC is essentially a front end to PowerShell. So we got, okay, domain, yes, okay, fine. That's cool. Good to know. I don't need it, but it might be helpful later. Let's see, click. And now I'm going to pause again because this could take some time. Okay, and it's giving me some warnings. The big thing here it notes is that I have one physical adapter that does not have a static IP address. One thing I can do here in order to keep myself on the net and also allow this thing to have a static address, I could go in here in settings and add a new network adapter. It actually, okay, it's going to see, add hardware. I could add a new network adapter here, give it a static address. So I'm going to keep rolling on this for now. If I have to, I will set this thing static, and that may complicate getting Windows up to date, but hopefully not. Hopefully it won't make things too difficult for me. Really and truly, your domain controllers should be statically addressed. All of your servers should be statically addressed. But it's a little more complicated than that in an environment like this. So I'm going to go ahead and click Install and wait some more. And it's rebooting. As I told it it could reboot, and now it's rebooting. And again, I'm going to pause it again because it might have to think a while before it's good and ready to give me control back once more. After this, I've already kind of done grabbing the Virtual Machine Manager and the SQL Server and the ADK. So I'm probably going to jump ahead now to Activity 6.5, creating the VMM service account. You create the service account before you install the Virtual Machine Manager. You download all these things. Oh, okay. Actually, you know what? Let's see. Actually, I'm going to, oh, sorry, strike that. Correction. I'm going to install SQL Server for 2014 and the ADK, and that will allow me to install the VMM service account. The VMM uses SQL Server to hold a lot of its configuration information. It is literally a configuration management database of sorts. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and we see the now familiar login screen. My local admin account has now been promoted to a domain admin account. Logically enough, since this computer is now the sum total of the domain. If I wanted to, I could probably spin up a Win10 client machine, add it to the domain. That might be something worth doing a little bit later. But for now, I'm just going to keep going. And then once this is good and done, I can install SQL Server and things like that. Now, one of the things we'll discover a little bit later as we talk about the Virtual Machine Manager is the Virtual Machine Manager can manage not only Hyper-V servers, but also ESXi hosts. That's going to be a little bit difficult. I mean, I've got a set of ESXi hosts already running in VMware Workstation. Of course, with Hyper-V installed at the moment, VMware Workstation is temporarily inoperable. So I can't really point this at those. If I wanted to, I would have to spin some new ESXi hosts up just to watch these things happen. But for the moment, I'm going to make sure that this is all working and move on to installing the SQL Server. as usual, as you're booting, just give this thing a few minutes to sort itself out. Wait for your dashboard to come up. Wait for all the services you expect to show up in the menu bar, the library pane, whatever you want to call it. If you just start clicking around now before it's good and ready, you're probably going to be wasting your time. And because the clock is ticking, I'm going to pause yet again. And it's all up and working. I can see my dashboard is green across the board. I can see, actually let me expand this to make sure there's not a, okay, so I've got my directory services role, my DNS role is up, file and storage services is up, Hyper-V is up. Local server wants to tell me about some services. Okay. The maps broker and the Synco, the one Synco service, I'm just going to leave those for now. If I really wanted to, I could right click here and I'm going to go ahead and start these services. You could go into services using your down here into services or administrative tools or whatnot. But as you can see, we've got domains and trusts, users and computers, the ADAC. We'll need users and computers here in just a minute. Actually, let me when all of this spins up, when we're good and ready to spin up VNM. But between now and then, we have to install this SQL Server. So that'll be the next video. Thanks for watching.